My sister sold our mother's house 3 days after the funeral, and I found out because strangers were touring my childhood bedroom. At first, I honestly thought I had the wrong address, because grief does strange things to your brain, especially after losing your mother. I sat in my car outside the house silently, staring at people walking through the front door carrying coffee cups, laughing, smiling, pointing at walls, like the house was already theirs. My stomach tightened instantly, because something felt deeply wrong. Then I saw the sign near the mailbox. Sold. My heart stopped. No, impossible. Mom's funeral happened 3 days earlier. 3 days. Nobody sells a family home 3 days after burying their mother. At least, normal people don't. I got out of the car immediately, hands shaking already, because suddenly, I realized I never received a single call from my sister since the funeral ended. Not one. At the time, I assumed grief overwhelmed her. Now, I understood something else entirely. She was hiding this. I walked toward the front yard quickly, and that's when I saw her, my older sister Karen, standing beside a real estate agent near the porch, holding paperwork, smiling nervously, until she noticed me. Then instantly, the smile disappeared. Guilt. Immediate guilt. That told me everything before she even spoke. "What did you do?" I whispered. Karen looked pale suddenly. Actually pale. "Claire," she started quietly. "No. People only use soft voices when they already know they crossed unforgivable lines. You sold the house," I snapped. Several strangers turned toward us awkwardly. Karen stepped closer immediately. "Please not here." Interesting, because guilty people always fear public conversations. I stared past her into the living room. My mother's furniture was already gone. Gone 3 days after burial, like her entire life had been erased overnight. My chest physically hurt now, because suddenly, this wasn't about property anymore. It felt like betrayal. Real betrayal. "You had no right," I whispered. Karen looked like she might cry, but not enough to stop herself apparently. "Yes, I did," she replied quietly. That sentence froze me completely, because suddenly, this became bigger than greed. "What does that mean?" Then Karen said something that made my blood run cold. "Mom changed the will before she died." Silence. Real silence. Because my mother promised for years the house would be split equally between us. Always equally. No secrets. No favorites. So why would she suddenly change everything weeks before dying? Unless someone pressured her. Then suddenly, a memory hit me hard. 2 weeks before Mom died, Karen refused to leave her hospital room while I visited. At the time, it felt overprotective. Now, it felt strategic. "What did you make her sign?" I whispered. Karen looked genuinely hurt by that question. Interesting, because guilty people hate being called guilty, even when they are. Then Karen said something that made my blood run cold. "Mom changed the will before she died." Silence. Real silence. Because my mother promised for years the house would be split equally between us. Always equally. No secrets. No favorites. So why would she suddenly change everything weeks before dying? Unless someone pressured her. Then suddenly, a memory hit me hard. 2 weeks before Mom died, Karen refused to leave her hospital room while I visited. At the time, it felt overprotective. Now, it felt strategic. "What did you make her sign?" I whispered. Karen looked genuinely hurt by that question. Interesting, because guilty people hate being called guilty, even when they are. Then she whispered something terrifying. "I sold the house because we don't actually own it anymore." My blood turned cold instantly, because suddenly, nothing made sense. "What are you talking about?" Karen looked toward the strangers inside the house nervously. then leaned closer and whispered, "Mom owed people money. Money. Always money. Every family disaster eventually circles back to money." But my mother was careful, organized, responsible. She hated debt. So how could she secretly owe enough money to lose her house? Then Karen said the sentence that shattered everything. "She borrowed money to protect you." Protect me? No. Impossible. Because suddenly, I realized my mother hid something enormous from me before she died. Something dangerous enough to force my sister into secretly selling the family home immediately after the funeral. And whatever truth Mom buried was still coming for us now. I stared at Karen in complete disbelief. "She borrowed money to protect you." The sentence kept echoing inside my head. Protect me from what? Nothing about this made sense anymore. My mother spent her entire life avoiding debt. She paid bills early, saved receipts from 20 years ago, balanced checkbooks like a religion. So how does a woman like that secretly lose her house? Unless fear was involved. Real fear. I grabbed Karen's arm immediately. "Tell me the truth." She looked exhausted suddenly. Not greedy. Not triumphant. Exhausted. Like someone carrying too much alone. Then quietly, she whispered, "Not here." She led me toward Mom's old garden behind the house. The same garden where Mom planted roses every spring. Only now, most flowers were dead, neglected. That hurt more than I expected, because suddenly, I realized Mom had been struggling long before she died. And somehow, I never noticed. Karen sat heavily on the old wooden bench, then finally told me everything. 6 months earlier, a man started visiting Mom secretly. Older man, expensive suits, always arriving late at night. At first, Karen thought he was a financial advisor, until she overheard an argument. That's when the truth surfaced. Years ago, my ex-husband borrowed money illegally before disappearing from my life. Large amounts, dangerous amounts. And after he vanished, those people eventually came searching for repayment. Not from him, from anyone connected to him, including me. My stomach turned instantly, because suddenly, I remembered strange calls months earlier, unknown numbers, silent voicemails, cars parked near my apartment too long. At the time, I ignored it. Now, everything looked different. "Mom found out before you did," Karen whispered. And because mothers never stop protecting their children, she handled it herself, secretly, without telling me. She refinanced the house first, then borrowed more money later trying to buy time. But debt grows fast when dangerous people are involved. Interest, threats, pressure, and eventually, Mom owed far more than she could repay. Tears filled my eyes instantly, because suddenly, every exhausted phone call from Mom made sense. Every forced smile, every moment she claimed she was fine. She was drowning quietly, trying to protect me. Then Karen handed me a folder. Inside were unpaid loan papers, threatening letters, and one handwritten note from Mom. The moment I saw her handwriting, my chest tightened painfully. "Karen," the note began, "if anything happens to me, sell the house immediately." My hands started shaking. She knew she was dying, Karen whispered, and she knew those men would come after the property next. So Karen sold it first, fast, quietly, before anyone else could take it violently. Then suddenly, everything changed again, because tucked inside the folder was another document, a photograph, old, faded, and standing beside my ex-husband was the same older man Karen described earlier, the man visiting Mom secretly. I stared at the picture silently, then noticed something horrifying. The man wore a police badge. Not criminal, police, or at least, he used to be. Karen saw my face change immediately. There's more, she whispered nervously. No, there's always more, because family secrets never arrive alone. Then Karen revealed the truth Mom hid until death. That man wasn't just collecting debt. He blamed our family for something that happened 30 years earlier. Something involving my ex-husband. Missing money, corruption, and a betrayal that destroyed multiple lives. My blood ran cold instantly, because suddenly, this wasn't just debt anymore. It was revenge. And if those men believed my mother hid something valuable before dying, then selling the house may have only made us bigger targets. Then my phone vibrated suddenly. Unknown number. One message. Only one sentence. Your mother died owing us. I froze completely. Because attached beneath the message was a recent photograph of me leaving the cemetery that morning. Someone was watching us. Still watching us. And suddenly, I realized Mom's death did not end this nightmare. It only passed the danger to us next. I showed Karen the message silently. Her face lost all color immediately. Because suddenly, the danger became real. Not old family drama. Not buried financial mistakes. Real danger. Someone watched us at the cemetery, which meant Mom's death changed nothing. The debt, the revenge, the obsession, all of it survived her. Karen grabbed my arm tightly. We need to go, she whispered. And for the first time in my life, I heard genuine fear in my older sister's voice. Not stress, not grief, fear. We drove straight to Mom's old storage unit across town, the one she rented secretly years earlier. Karen only discovered it after finding hidden payment receipts inside Mom's desk. The drive felt endless. Every car behind us looked suspicious now. Every traffic light felt dangerous. Because fear changes ordinary things into threats. When we finally reached the storage facility, Karen entered the access code with shaking hands. The metal door rolled upward slowly, and instantly, both of us froze. Boxes everywhere, photographs, old documents, bank files, and near the back wall, a locked metal safe. My stomach tightened immediately, because mothers only hide safes when protecting truths too dangerous to leave visible. Karen handed me a small key quietly. Mom gave me this before she died. I opened the safe slowly. Inside were stacks of old cash bundles. Thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. My breath caught instantly. Then beneath the money sat videotapes. Old videotapes labeled carefully by year. And one envelope, written in Mom's handwriting. For Claire. My hands shook opening it. Inside was a confession. 30 years earlier, my ex-husband helped steal money from corrupt officers connected to illegal gambling operations. Millions disappeared, and several dangerous men blamed each other afterward. Some went to prison, some vanished, some died, but one man survived, the retired officer from the photograph. And for decades, he believed my ex-husband secretly hid part of the stolen money with our family. But according to Mom's letter, he was wrong. The money hidden in the safe, it wasn't stolen. It was hush money. Money my mother received years earlier to stay silent after witnessing something terrible. A murder. My blood turned cold instantly. Because suddenly, everything became far darker than debt. Mom wasn't hiding from collectors. She was hiding from people protecting old crimes. Then Karen inserted one of the videotapes into an old player nearby. Static filled the screen briefly. Then suddenly, an image appeared. Young version of my ex-husband arguing violently with several men. One wearing a police badge. Then shouting, threats, and finally, a gunshot. The room went completely silent. Because suddenly, we understood why Mom spent decades terrified. She saw everything, and someone eventually realized she still possessed proof. Then headlights flashed outside the storage unit suddenly. Both of us froze instantly. Car doors slammed. Footsteps approaching. Fast. My heart started pounding violently now, because suddenly, Mom's warnings became terrifyingly real. Karen whispered, "They found us." Then a male voice shouted outside, "Open the unit." No police announcement. No sirens. Just anger. Dangerous anger. Then suddenly, Karen grabbed the videotapes and shoved them into my hands. "Run through the back exit," she whispered urgently. "No," I replied immediately, but she grabbed my shoulders tightly. "Mom protected you her entire life." Tears filled her eyes instantly. "Let me protect you now." That sentence broke me completely, because suddenly, I realized something painful. All this time, I thought my sister betrayed me, but she had actually been carrying Mom's fear alone after her death, protecting me the only way she knew how. Then the storage unit door shook violently, someone trying to force it open. And suddenly, everything became chaos. We escaped through the rear exit moments before men stormed inside. Police became involved later. Federal investigators too. The videotapes changed everything. Old corruption cases reopened. Retired officers arrested. And after decades, the truth finally surfaced publicly. Months later, Karen and I sat together quietly outside a small apartment balcony. No childhood home anymore. No inheritance. No family fortune. Just peace. And honestly, peace felt more valuable than any house. Then Karen suddenly whispered, "Do you think Mom was scared the whole time?" I looked toward the sunset silently, then answered honestly, "Yes, but I think loving us mattered more to her than fear, because mothers survive impossible things for their children, even when it destroys them slowly. And sometimes, the people we think betrayed us were actually protecting us from truths too heavy to explain." Mom lost her home protecting her family. My sister lost my trust protecting me. And in the end, I finally understood something important. Love is not always gentle. Sometimes, love looks like sacrifice. Sometimes, it looks like silence. And sometimes, it looks exactly like betrayal. Until the full truth finally comes into the light.